What's up, YouTube? Shawn with the Guaranteed Success Plan, and today I want to talk about getting fired. And trust me, it happens. Especially when you get busy, and sometimes when you get too busy, you're gonna get fired from jobs. It's gonna happen. But let me tell you what to expect, and let me show you how to deal with it properly. Let me tell you about a day where I actually lost about $1.6 million in volume over 2 deals. So about 2 $800,000 listings, literally lost them both on the same day. One was a listing that I took on that I knew was gonna be a tough one. We were a fair bit overpriced. I'm okay with taking overpriced listings because I know I'm gonna market them really well. I'm gonna attract a couple more buyers and maybe another listing out of it. Plus, I'm usually really good with a pricing strategy to bring it down into reality really quick. But in this particular case, the seller literally gave me 1 month to get it done. And guess what month he picked? December. Literally the worst month of the year. He said, you have 1 month to sell my very overpriced listing. We took it on, gave it a shot, ended up not working out. The other one was a listing that I took on that was a little bit over market value. Again, you guys gotta understand that I am in a very depressed economy. Most people are losing about 20, sometimes 25% on their properties when they bought it 4 or 5 years ago. So everyone wants to get, just what I paid, but that is absolutely not possible. Anyways, this one we took just a little bit over, but we were gonna work that price down into the price range that would be, kind of acceptable in a very short amount of time. So anyways, let's dig into these 2 deals. The first one that I knew I had to market heavy, we put it absolutely everywhere you could imagine. We were crushing it on Facebook, Instagram, boosting posts, running lives, all the kind of stuff that you need to be doing to drive traffic, and we got 0 showings, not a single one. Again, we were probably close to about $100,000 overpriced in December at around the 800,000 mark. Not a good story to be. So when I called to see if they wanted to extend the listing and maybe push it past the 30-day listing, I was told literally not a chance. We expected this to sell, not gonna happen. Anyways, got fired from that job. The second one I had on the market for a little bit longer, and we were slowly working our way into the price where we needed to be. Except what happened is around us, all the homes that were selling were actually getting quite a bit more desperate, and that price that was market value was dropping and dropping and dropping. So what was the fair market price, or what I thought we would be selling for when I signed the deal, was not the case anymore. It kept dropping, and I got another video on this about why you need to price houses properly, especially in a declining market. In a hot market, not as big of a deal, but in a declining market, you need to be sharp. But anyways, let's stay on track with this story. Every week, I always send every single one of my sellers an update, basically like a mini CMA of what your house price is now, what it needs to be, what is sold around us, and why those ones are selling and why yours isn't. In this particular case, because we've been on for a couple months, I usually take an extra step at this time and I call all of the buyer agents that bought in the community, and I find out why they didn't buy our house, and especially if they came through, why we didn't get an offer. In this particular case, I was able to dig down into the root of the problem, which we found out to be the kitchen setup and a few of the things in the house was not what people were looking for in the area in that price point. So we actually didn't really have a shot at all. And that only became apparent after digging through the data, after being online for a little bit and actually doing the proper research, making sure I'm providing good customer service and guiding my clients in the right direction. So I give this feedback to them and I let them know, hey guys, your house is actually very overpriced and these are the reasons right here. They didn't like that very much. So I'd already been fired from one job where the guy didn't want to renew his listing after the 30 days. He didn't even give me the full 30 days, but he didn't want to renew that listing there. And then these guys, after I told them the new price point that they should be selling in, decided that they didn't want to play ball down at that price range. It wasn't worth them to sell anymore. At this point, I think they were losing around $150,000 from the price point they bought. They decided to cash out. I literally lost both deals in the exact same day. At the moment, I absolutely felt crushed. And this is when I learned one of the biggest lessons possible. And I'm telling you guys, every lesson has a price. Every education comes with a cost. This one happened to cost me about $40,000. You can never rely on one listing or one deal or a handful of listings and deals. And we can never focus on the end of the road. We have to focus on the road itself. So what had happened here, because I lost 2 bigger deals all at one time, I felt crushed. Not that I'd already spent the money because I know better than to spend commission that you haven't earned yet. But in my head, when you put a listing up, you expect to sell it at some point in time and get paid for it. I'd put up the money for marketing, I put up the money for listing, the time and the effort, the energy, the open houses, the door knocking, we did it all. We got no result out of it. I wasn't feeling too good about myself. But a lesson that I learned that day, and something that I've been talking about in the past, but I didn't truly feel it or understand it enough until that point, is we can't focus on the sale itself. We have to focus on the road that gets us to the sale, that gets us that listing. So at that point, I knew I had to base my entire business around prospecting, not around just the sales. Because if I were to sit back and rely on those 1 or 2 sales and they both fell apart and that was all I had going on for that month or the next month, I'm gonna be eating cans of beans for the next couple months, because you can't afford to eat if you're relying on a couple sales and they fall apart, because it does happen. Again, my biggest month in my first year in the business was 17 transactions. I thought I was crushing the game. I literally followed up after with a goose egg, a 0 month right after I had the best month of my career at the time. Again, first year in the business, 17 was really, really good. We've exceeded that now. And again, if you follow all the strategies that we talk about here, you're gonna be able to get those same kind of results. Again, focusing back to prospecting, I knew that before I even lost those deals, that they didn't matter if they fell off or if they sold, because I was already firing onto the next one, the next one, the next one, and I was already adding to my listing inventory. So when those ones fell off, sure it hurt, sure it sucked. 2 in 1 day feels absolutely terrible, but it didn't crush my business because I was already moving past those. I was already moving forward with prospecting. And that's the thing you have to focus on. So when you get that big buyer, you get that big listing, you get a bunch of listings in a row, they could all fall off at the same time. Do not take your eye off the ball. The game, the real estate game, is prospecting. No matter what happens, you gotta make sure you're prospecting a minimum of 2-3 hours every single day. I'm gonna give you another lesson that I learned, another expensive lesson. This one costs about $15,000 on its own. Now remember, I'm always carrying, give or take, 30, 35, up to 40 active listings at a time. I'm always an extremely busy individual. I've been running a free training program for quite a while now, and I just started my team. So I pick up this listing, we put it on the market, we're a tad overpriced. I'm sending my weekly updates all the time, letting her know that this is what's sold around us, this is not what's sold around us. In this particular community, it was a very slow community. They get maybe a dozen sales or so a year in the entire area. So we weren't expecting exactly a quick sale, but we were getting a tremendous amount of traffic all the time. And we kept getting the same feedback. Not worth the money, not worth the money, we need to drop the price. So we kept having these discussions, but we weren't ever dropping the price back down into reality. And at the same time, I was posting a lot about my group, a lot about the training, a lot about the team. And even though we were communicating about once a week or so, this particular seller was feeling like I wasn't giving them enough love or enough attention. One day the client called me and they asked, how much is it to cancel inside your contract? Or when does our contract expire? I have a $0 cancellation policy. If somebody doesn't want to work with me, it's because I'm clearly not doing a good enough job. I'm not going to charge somebody or penalize somebody for that. If they don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with them. It's a risk and expense that I took and I chose to take on the listing, so that's fine. But by her asking that question, I knew that the axe was coming. I just didn't know when. Anyways, I ended up getting fired from that listing too. Again, it sucks, it hurts, it doesn't feel good. I hadn't spent the money yet, but in your mind, you know that money's coming at some point. Here, it's clearly not. So I had to sit back and think again, why did I get fired from this listing? What happened? What went wrong? What can I adjust in my business to do better to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future? Again, this was a $15,000 lesson. I better learn it. I don't want this to fucking happen again. I got let go from this listing because I wasn't communicating enough. This particular client wanted to be a little more hands-on. They wanted a higher level of communication. I felt like I was giving a lot when I was giving weekly updates and checking in every once in a while, giving feedback on every listing that came through, but they were looking for something more than what I was giving at the time. Now, whenever I take on a listing, I set the expectation of exactly what the communication is gonna look like, and they know what to expect from me, and I know what to give to them. If they want a higher level of communication, at that point, I can pick and choose if I want to take on the listing and take on that much work and effort, because sometimes it's truly not worth it. But if it's a good listing or a good friend or a good client or something you want to pursue, that's your choice and you can take it. You're not going to get hit with that surprise later on that, oh, you didn't follow up enough, you didn't call enough, you didn't text enough, we're feeling left out. You set the expectation early. That's the lesson that I learned after getting fired from that one. So to sum it up, we actually never fail if we fall forward. Obviously, losing a listing can be considered a failure, but it's not if you learn a lesson, because that means that you're never gonna lose again in that same way. So really, it's just a lesson learned. It's not a failure. You're gonna move forward with your business. You're gonna live to fight another day. Keep on prospecting. Don't ever focus on one sale as your entire business. Focus on prospecting for business nonstop as the main factor of your business, and you will never be short and never be incredibly sad and depressed when you lose a listing or a buyer. Hope this video was helpful for you guys. Again, I wish I had seen something like this when I first started, or when I lost my first listing, or my first listing expired. There's a whole bunch of bumps in the road in this business. It is not all sunshine and flowers. There is a lot of difficult times. This is one that I just wanted to share with you guys, that being fired is truly okay. It's just not okay to get fired for the same thing twice. Again, guys, if this video was helpful for you, ring the bell up top, subscribe down below. I love connecting with agents. I love hearing about your stories. If you guys want to leave some comments about when you were fired down below, I'd love to hear them. Shoot me a DM, shoot me an email, let's connect. And as always, we're growing this GSP team to a gigantic massive amount of agents that are all connecting, collabing, working together, and we're driving each other's business forward. You want to have something to lean on when you hit a speed bump, or ways to overcome challenges, and again, not get charged out the yang for it by being on a big team or a big split to a brokerage. Reach out to us. We are literally looking for big agents, small agents, agent teams, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to be part of the group, guys, you know what to do. Just fire me an email or send me a DM. All right, till the next video.